The far-right wonderkins over at Doge claiming to find massive amounts of fraud and corruption at the highest levels of USAID. And so that's why they got to shut it down. However, their examples of fraud are not actually examples of fraud. They're just things that they ideologically oppose. Look, just because you don't agree with where the money goes doesn't mean that it's actually fraudulent. See, fraud has an actual meaning. Words mean things. Fraud means, hey, you said that this money was going to be spent for this, but it was actually spent for something else. No, in this case, the money was spent exactly the way that it was spent. Okay. Now, some examples here. White House Press Secretary Carolyn Leavitt, she went after USAID for sending $1.5 million to advance DEI in Serbian workplaces. Okay, $70,000 for a DEI musical in Ireland, and $32,000 for a transgender comic book in Peru. Now, of course, the details that Leavitt gets it generally happen to be wrong. Some of them are State Department grants, not USAID. But apparently that does not matter. Now, she also claimed that USAID had spent $47,000 on a transgender opera in Colombia called As One by Laura Kaminsky, which is about the personal journey of a transgender woman, Hannah, from her childhood in a small town. Okay, some $25,000 was apparently used for the opera from a State Department program aimed at strengthening U.S. relations globally, which you would think is somewhat important, right? The remaining $22,000 came from other sources, not federal funding, according to Not US, a publication of the Al Britton Journalism Institute. So, look, a lot of the details, like it actually wasn't USAID, it was more State Department grants. But at the end of the day, your objections to it are just ideological and not really indicative of fraud or corruption. Okay? And at the same time, right, the amount of money that we're talking, I mean, for one, no, they didn't send like $8 million for condoms or I'm sorry, it was like $1 million or so, or 50 million for condoms. They didn't actually do that. Or $8 million on Politico. It was like 44,000 for a subscription for the entire department so they could keep up on their, keep up on the news because that's part of their job. But anyway, all right. But when it comes down to how much money is spent by USAID, right? It's a fraction of the money that's spent by our federal government. In 2023, for example, Congress allocated $43.4 billion to USAID, which is about 0.7% of the total $6.134 trillion federal budget, according to reports from the Congressional Research Service and former Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen. So, drop in the bucket compared to the rest of our federal budget. And much of that USAID funding does not go to transgender plays. Okay. Not that I would care. I mean, I think that's great. Totally fine. Super based, actually. But no, most of that funding actually goes towards agencies like the World Food Program, Feeds Hungry Children, UNICEF, and non-governmental agencies like Save the Children. Not towards advancing any sort of diversity programs, which again, I think diversity programs are totally fine. So at the end of the day, USAID funding actually does a lot of good. Now, I'm not saying everything that USAID has done is good. A lot of it is actually in the advancement of U.S. soft power, which is kind of a way for us to be like, we'll give you some money if you do the things that I want you to do, right? Okay, well, yeah, I get it. I actually prefer soft power as opposed to the other kind of power, which is military. Okay, so yeah, but yeah, again, you have an agenda, and in this case, you want to promote diversity across the world. I'm not going to be opposed to that agenda, okay? Because I happen to like diversity. I happen to think that it's a good thing. But hey, you could be of the opinion of, I think that is wasteful. Okay. Well, that's pretty subjective, though. One person's waste is another person's lifeline or worthy project. Now, that said, speaking of waste, I know one case where I think there might have been some wasteful spending here. And what is that? That's the case of Ivanka Trump. That's right. The already wealthy Trumpkin took advantage of USAID money for her own event. What? According to USAID documents, Ivanka actually used over 11 grand from the department in 2019 to buy video recording and reproducing equipment for a White House event. Why couldn't she buy it herself? I mean, it's not like she's not rich. Documents show $11,539 was used by Trump in November 2019 to purchase software, CDs, tapes, and records. The purchase was approved by Jennifer Healy, who was serving as USAID Deputy Chief of Staff at the time, and the Administrator's Office. It is not clear which White House event the equipment was used for. So we don't really know. But that's the thing, right? She is not the only Trump to have been fine with USAID. In fact, Melania was quite a fan of the agency back in the day, as was Donald. Now, on her four-country tour through Africa back in 2018, for example, which was her first major solo international trip as First Lady, Melania had praised a successful USAID program in Malawi. She handed out bags, school supplies, and soccer balls as part of her Be Best initiative, and as part of a collaboration with a USAID literacy program. Talking about literacy program. Could use one here. No. She told ABC News in an exclusive interview during that visit, quote, "It's really touching. I'm glad that I'm here to see in person what the children are going through and see that they're educating them in the right way." That program distributed more than 1.4 million textbooks to students in need. And I think that that's a worthy program. It's a great use of money. Educating people. We should be doing more of that and less of the bombing. At another stop on her African tour, Melania Trump also toured the Great Sphinx in Giza, where she observed a USAID-backed project to limit the groundwater that threatened to erode hieroglyphics in the iconic Egyptian monument. In fact, according to one former senior USAID official in the region, quote, "She was well briefed. She was personally interested. She was very impressed that we were working so closely with local government to provide economic opportunities for the Egyptian people." Now, what's going on now? That same official who wanted to stay anonymous for certain reasons, fear of retribution, they said, quote, "It's hard to stomach what President Trump is doing now in disbanding the agency. Quote, it's very disturbing, and it's all politics. Until you see the work that the work of USAID firsthand, it's very difficult to understand and explain. You leave a different person." Now, I mentioned that Donald Trump himself had once supported USAID. 2019, then President Trump signed a memo launching a new Women's Global Development and Prosperity Initiative aimed at empowering women in the developing world. The $50 million fund, known as WGDP, was developed to be distributed by USAID with an ambitious goal of empowering 50 million women in developing countries by 2025. The initiative was led by the president's daughter and then senior advisor, Ivanka Trump. So, what changed? What changed? Well, the people that are around Donald Trump. Ivanka no longer taking a role, okay, in this administration. No, she decided to stay completely out of it, okay? So she doesn't have a role, and now you have Elon Musk. Yeah. Not only that, but you've got Russell Vought, who is a Christian nationalist, who was one of Trump's top advisors. And so what this is their plan to kill off government, mainly so that people like Elon Musk can give himself tax cuts. That's the overall goal. Now, what's interesting, though, and I named those two people, Vought and Musk, but they actually disagree on some of this stuff. Project 2025 actually calls for a different role for USAID, but a role nonetheless. Chapter in the manifesto by Max Primorak, a senior research fellow in the Margaret Thatcher Center for Freedom at the Heritage Foundation, based in Washington, D.C., suggested a presidential administration could resize and repurpose USAID's humanitarian aid portfolio to restore the original purpose of providing emergency short-term relief, prepping vulnerable communities for transition, and doing no harm without, of course, completely dismantling it, which is what Musk wants to do. Musk wants to just wipe it off the face of the earth. It's gone. It's gone. All right? I know.
Bing, 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 boom. It's gone.
Primorak also recommended that USAID should operate more like it did in Trump's first term, including pushing pro-life and pro-family friendly policies, promoting international religious freedom, and building an unprecedented genocide response infrastructure. And so, kind of like, the whole, in line with the whole Christian nationalist theme of Project 2025. Okay. But Musk, as I mentioned, he's like, it is a ball of worms. We must completely gut it and get rid of it. Delete USAID. Got to get rid of it. And look, that's the direction that we're going. Okay. This really does show you how much power Elon Musk, who was Donald Trump's biggest donor, how much power he has over this administration. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please like, share, subscribe, hit the bell icon in order to get notified whenever a new video is released. And if you want to support independent, progressive media through this difficult time where it seems like everybody is shutting down, you can become a member on our YouTube page, you can become a subscriber on Facebook, or you can go to my Patreon. It's patreon.com/Jeff Waldorf. Thank you.